But I have a question that's bothered me for a long time, since I've known about your work before the film, Andy. It seems that your request is pretty straightforward. It seems very innocuous on the surface. We're just saying, let's just separate out. Let's just separate out the vaccines. Let's consider age. Let's consider important empirical factors that have a devastating impact. Were you surprised when you came out and said, "Hey, I made this observation"? Did you expect you were going to get this kind of pushback? I talk about understatement, but I mean, what was your response? Did you go out expecting them to go, "Oh, thank you, that's great information"? What was that experience like?
Let me foreshorten all of this by saying I only discovered some years later quite why in the States in particular this had come about, but it came about through an interview with Donald Henderson, who was the World Health Organization's head of smallpox eradication, very, very senior man. And he explained that in effect the use of measles, mumps, rubella was a commercial strategy by Merck. There were competitors producing a single measles vaccine. Merck produced a mumps vaccine, and they reasoned that if they could combine measles, mumps, and rubella, because they were the only company to have a patent on mumps, and they could make that the vaccine of choice, then they would corner the market in the United States. They would get the monopoly. Mumps at the time, in the UK and the US, the CDC said this is a trivial disease, it is not worth vaccinating against. It is a mild disease in children, there is no need for it. And so the head of vaccines at Merck went state by state by state, persuading the state health officers to include mandatory mumps vaccination on the program, to the point where so many were using it, so many states were using it, the CDC said, in their words, "Oh, to hell with it. We might as well include it." That is the scientific basis for the inclusion of mandatory mumps vaccination to your children in this country. And oh, to hell with it, called by the CDC. MMR became the vaccine of choice. Merck cleaned up. It was a commercial strategy.
Did you, I guess my question is, did you know when you started to present this information? Did you have that information? Were you surprised when you were attacked?
No, I was, and I was in particular because what we're suggesting is here are vaccines that are available at the time. The single measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine are available both here and in the UK, and so it would be a simple thing to just continue to make those available to parents who had concerns about the MMR vaccine, rightful concerns, because one had to already be withdrawn for producing meningitis. So we were already in a state of some nervousness about this vaccine, but they went completely the other way. They took away the option of single vaccines. Parents opted not to use the MMR, and then measles came back, and then they blamed me.
And this is all done purely for financial reasons. They're just protecting the profitability of the MMR?
Well, the government officials were protecting themselves. They made a policy, they tried to cover up the Urabi strain mumps meningitis, and they were really, as civil servants do, as a matter of job description, to cover their assets.
So let's talk a little bit about the kind of meta-political of this. It seems to me that what I'm seeing here, these kind of revolving door of government officials that move in and out of the private sector, that's happening all over our government. I mean, all over our democracy, which is essentially subverting it. And talk a little bit about the implications for this. Tell me about Julie. What's her name? Julie.
Gerberding.
Yeah. How do we begin to hold people like this accountable?
Well, you have to get on it because she just cashed in $2.5 million worth of stock right around the time this movie was being made and on its way to come out. She's probably trying to buy an island to get out of here. What I have found interesting about this, sort of on the political side of it, is, I grew up a progressive liberal. Environmental issues, things like that. we all went and signed petitions to have GMOs labeled. Those friends always scream and yell every time, an EPA bill is stopped, and then that senator or that congressman goes off and gets a job at Exxon. But almost every one of those friends of mine turned on me when I decided to go near this store. And I just found that amazing. I remember one friend screaming in my face, and I said, well, hold on a second. I thought we were standing at Whole Foods signing a bill to label GMOs. Why were we doing that? Because I think GMOs are unsafe. Okay, that's interesting because the CDC says they're safe and the FDA says they're safe. Well, I don't believe them. But you believe them when they tell you that Merck is making vaccines for your safety and they're perfectly healthy. I hadn't really thought about it like that. How is this topic really, Republicans are fighting to stop mandates of vaccines more than Democrats. Now, it doesn't really matter, but we should all be fighting to have control of our body and our children's bodies. What is it about this topic, and the revolving door? We have revolving doors here. Julie Gerberding needs to be held accountable. This is unbelievable.
Well, that's my other question. And I know it's a democracy, so it's probably the answer's us. But where is the moral and legal authority to start holding people accountable? Where is that going to come from? Right? We defer that to our government. Government has advocated that responsibility. So where are we going to find the moral and legal force to start holding people accountable?
Well, I think that it will not come from the top down. There are too many farmer lobbyists that interface between the President, the Congress, the Senate, and the people that they are supposed to represent. They're like orcs scaling Helm's Deep. It's a pretty ugly sight. There are four farmer lobbyists to every politician in DC at the moment. They are spending billions and billions of dollars on persuading politicians to follow their law. They wrote, in effect, the SB 277 here in California, which is in effect written by the pharmaceutical industry. So it will not come from the top down, it has to come from the bottom up. It has to come from people asserting their democratic rights and refusing to vote for any politician who's going to allow this kind of thing to happen. Again, it's fascinating that Bernie Sanders sees this. He sees this in every domain of corporate America. He is against it, and yet, just like Dell's friend, when it comes to vaccines, they're safe. Why would Merck be a company that, on the one hand, caused up to 50,000 deaths using Vioxx, a drug that they knew before it was licensed was dangerous, that tripled the rate of heart attacks and strokes, and yet put it on the market knowing that? They didn't care. Why would that company, in another domain of its operation, vaccines, be any different? It's not. Merck are currently in federal court in Pennsylvania being sued for fraudulently altering the data on the efficacy of their mumps vaccine in order to protect their patent from putting children at risk. So they are what they are. There is no ambiguity. And yet Bernie Sanders can't see that for what it is. And he sees it in every other corporate aspect of America. Bernie needs to see this film.
Yes, he does.
He will.
All right, so any questions from the audience? First hand up.
We have a daughter who's 24.
Stand up, please.
We have a microphone.
Microphone on its way.
Oops. So we have a daughter exactly same age movie, 24, severe autism. Give it to her.
After all the analytics and immunization. I worked with 300 families with Foundation with Autism for a long time. I'm wondering, how do we get this movie? I could get it to everybody if you could just get it to us somehow, so we could just start making it go viral. Just get it out there to everybody so we can do something with it.
Okay, this is a very specific approach we have here. There's been a lot of great movies made. Trace Mounts, Greater Good, really wonderful films that have all used grassroots approaches like that. when Andy, and when I came down and decided to work with Andy, I said, that's approach, I'm sorry, is not working. We're just rabble-rousing the same crowd that already understand this. It's important, and you know, first of all, my heart goes out to you, and just the unbelievable amounts of parents that are suffering what you're going through. But to me, theaters are our only chance here. What's happening right now, and you know, the fact we're having success at the Angelica, we're opening tomorrow now in Lundy in Santa Monica, and we're getting calls from theaters all over the country and all over the world. We want this in theaters. We want moviegoers walking past Facts to Sign. We want this discussion at CNN. We want it at MSNBC. We want Fox to have to deal with this story and talk about it. And they won't talk about it if it's just on the internet, hidden in the grassroots circles. So it's, you know, it's not about, oh, we gotta be in a movie theater. I think it's our only chance. Because there's 90% of America are just marching blindly into this decision without thinking about it. We want safe, healthy vaccines. The only way, and this is going to your point, the only way that happens is if we realize how massive the numbers are and we stand up together and we tell our politicians, you will not be reelected if you don't call William Thompson for the stand, if you don't start immediately testing every single vaccine like you do every drug that grandpa and grandma are getting, and just like while we're putting these vaccines in our children. We need testing right away. It's not happening. That's the most terrifying thing I discovered while doing this. They are not testing vaccines, no long-term studies, no placebo studies. It's unbelievable. It's unethical. They're putting multiple viruses together. This is 3 viruses. There's vaccines coming with 7 live viruses all at once being put into your baby's bloodstream. Does that make any sense? It doesn't. So we need it in the public. We believe that the movie screens are what's going to do it. And we need to show success in theaters. That's the platform.
And also to say to you, your story is incredibly important to the documentary. So you and the 300 families with the vaccine stories, we need to hear those stories. We need to get out there and tell our stories in any way, shape or form that we can. Because ultimately, I believe the parents and the stories of the vaccine damaged children will win.
First of all, great job. I mean, you really